I told you guys I would do a story time, and we are coming up on 22 years since my escape from a serial killer. And so I want to take today to just set the stage for like who I was, what I was doing in the world, my experiences in life before, so that you can have some perspective. First and foremost, my name is Kara Robinson Chamberlain. When I was 15, I was kidnapped by a man I later found out was a serial killer. I escaped from him and went on to work in law enforcement and now do advocacy work here. There's also a movie and a documentary, and I tell my story here. So summer of 2002, I was out of school. It was June. I had a pretty serious boyfriend at the time, if you've seen the movie. That was Ryan. His real name is Chris. He's on the documentary. And I had a best friend, and we just kind of hung out all the time. It's like, I don't know what high school kids do now, but all we did was we would just like go to someone's house and hang out and, you know, go to the lake during the day or watch TV. Like it was pretty chill. So my days were spent, for the most part, my friend, her actual name is Heather. In the movie it was Jess, and I were almost always together. So it was like a very normal thing that we just kind of like spend the night together almost always. So this day was not any different than any other. I was spending the night with her, and we were going to, you know, figure out what we wanted to do in the morning, talking to my boyfriend. Nothing extraordinary. As far as who I was and my upbringing, I'm an only child. My parents were, I think they were already divorced. They separated off and on a lot through my childhood, so it's hard for me to remember. I think they divorced when I was 15. So I think they may have already been divorced. They were in the process of it. And I was living with my mom at the time, and I would not say I had like an easy childhood. I didn't experience any like gigantic traumas, but I had what I would characterize as a chaotic childhood just because of like the stress of my parents. And, you know, we didn't talk about things back then. I, for the most part, grew up, we had a lot of animals. So I grew up like playing with my puppies and my kittens, and we had horses off and on. So I rode horses and I rode go-karts and dirt bikes, spent a lot of time outside, used my imagination a lot, was really into crafting. It's really fun to kind of think about who I was then, because it's been a big part of my healing journey actually, to kind of remember some of the things that brought me joy in childhood and recapture those. So summer of 2002, I'm 15. I am, you know, way too cool for all of those kid things. But again, I was not innocent. Let me not let you think that I was. But I was kind of like the mom. I was always the mom of the friend group. I was the one that was like taking care of everyone. So for the most part, I was, you know, pretty responsible, got good grades. I didn't really get in trouble. My parents didn't really worry about me much. Like, I don't ever really remember having a curfew or anything, because it was just kind of like, Kara's responsible. All of these things kind of play into my story. And, you know, whenever law enforcement was like, oh, well, she must be a runaway, my family was like, absolutely not. Like, I wish this piece of hair would go away. There's no way she would do that. So just kind of sets the scene for who I was and gives you some perspective. Another thing a lot of people want to know is, like, was I raised to do all these things? Like, what did my parents do to prepare me? They didn't do anything. This was the freaking 80s, 90s. Like, I was born in 86. I grew up in the 90s. The extent of our safety knowledge was like, don't talk to strangers. And I didn't listen to that. And stop, drop, and roll. Like, that's pretty much all we got. Remember, we were the generation that like, oh, there's a tornado coming, go in the hallway and put a book over your head. So, you know, there wasn't a lot of safety conversation. And it was especially not like a, hey, if something ever happens, this is what you do, and you memorize all of this information. It was definitely not a conversation that was had. So hopefully that helps to set the stage and help you understand who I was in 2002 before I was taken by a man from my friend's front yard, who I later found out was a serial killer.